Let's talk about property taxes. I was on Twitter today and I saw a poll that a guy put up here: property taxes. How do you feel about your property taxes in Texas? And I'd mentioned in one of my prior videos, I think probably the first video, that I have a lot of strong feelings on property taxes. So I want to go over five points that I mentioned here as I responded to this guy's post. He pretty much put up, how do you feel about your property taxes in Texas? And gave two options: necessary or end them now. And of course, I'm in the end them now camp. But I just want to just go over these real quick to share my thoughts on them. There are so many reasons why property taxes should be eliminated completely. The property tax system should just be completely eliminated, completely abolished, I think is the better word. Homeowners are being taxed on unrealized gains as values rise. I mean, that's pure and simple fact. The property tax system doesn't take into account a homeowner's ability to pay via their income. Uh, the ability to pay property taxes is basically just the metric used is the home value. Increases in home values, the bottom line is, do not equal more income. I mean, you can own an asset that goes up in value substantially. That doesn't mean that you magically have more money in your bank account. And that's what this system supposes. It just assumes that if your home has gone up in value, which homes have gone up in value drastically over the past 10 to 15, 20 years, it doesn't make sense, because it doesn't, you don't automatically have more money, like I said, in your bank account. You don't have higher income. You're not getting a raise necessarily, but you have this increased tax burden without any consideration for your ability to pay via your liquid assets, because your home, especially if it's your primary residence home, you live in that home. That's an illiquid asset. You can't just easily sell it. You have no place to go. So number two, disparate home values. Disparate, not desperate, but disparate, unequal home values essentially mean that one homeowner is paying more for police, fire, ISD, and other services than his neighbors based on a higher assessed value. So, I mean, and this occurs all the time. You can have a home that is valued substantially more just down the street, and that homeowner is paying substantially more than his neighbors down the street, just simply because his home value has been assessed higher. And I understand, with the homestead exemption, and there's a cap and everything, only 10% per year, but still that's an increased burden, because you're having to pay an increased tax on that increased taxable value that can increase 10% per year. So imagine, let's just use a metaphor. Imagine going to the grocery store and paying more for your groceries simply because you are deemed, the assets that you own are deemed to be of a higher value than another patron. So you're paying more for a carton of eggs because you own an asset that's deemed higher. So you should be able to pay more, right? That's kind of what this is like. That's just the way I look at it. Maybe people are going to disagree, but that's how I look at it. So number three that I had mentioned here, if I can find it, because let's see here, number three. Property taxes discourage, and this is really sad for young people and people who have a dream of home ownership. Property taxes discourage would-be first-time homeowners from realizing their dream of home ownership. It's particularly sad for young people who already are facing, there's a home shortage issue going on, and due to high demand coupled with a higher interest rate environment. So you might have a young person, or maybe even a young couple that's starting a family, and they're tired of renting. They'd like to have, they like to set down roots somewhere and start, building wealth. And that's something I'll mention in one of my next points. They want to have a place that they can call their own, that they're no longer answering to a landlord. They don't have to deal with the uncertainty of if a landlord decides to that he no longer wants to rent. Maybe he wants to sell the property. And so in that case, that would, unless the new owner is willing to have an income producing property and keep the tenants, that could be a perilous situation for a homeowner, for a renter. So people that want to have a place that they can call their own are discouraged due to because people are smart nowadays. They're looking at what the total bill is going to be. They're looking at what they're if they have a mortgage, they're not paying cash. They have to have insurance. So they've got to look at that monthly insurance payment, which in premiums are going up. Mine have gone up by 30%. So I need to go and try to haggle with them, see if I can get my insurance premium back down. That's going up. Um, then they have to look at what their payment's going to be, of course, and then their property tax is factored into that. And in some cases, from what I've read, people are now paying more in property taxes than they are their mortgage payment. So that's insane. That's discouraging a lot of would-be first-time homeowners from even trying to begin to realize their dream of homeownership. It's a very sad situation. Uh, so number 4 that I wrote here is, how can you enjoy your home, updating necessary repairs and maintenance, when you must instead divert all of your spare savings to an egregiously high tax burden every year? Part of owning the home is enjoying it. That's your sanctuary. That's the one ultimate thing that you should be able to enjoy in your life is, when you've achieved that milestone. And you want to maybe update some things. You want to maybe put in some new windows, some energy efficient windows, doors. Maybe you want to put a pergola out in the back, to really enjoy your backyard, especially here where I am in El Paso. The sun is very intense, and a pergola is nice to have during the summertime, so you can sit out and enjoy the cool breezes, during the day, because the air is still kind of nice, but that heat, that sun is just so intense that you'd like to be able to enjoy something like that, or some other landscaping, and you're discouraged from doing that because every time you perform an update, then that potentially means that your value is going to be assessed higher. That means you're going to have a higher tax bill. So that discourages you from updating your home and even getting the necessary repairs if you can't afford it, because you're instead saving all your money for that inevitable tax bill. So number 5, and this is just the last point. The property tax system, it's an attack on wealth building. Okay. The primary residence home for most people is the largest asset a homeowner is likely going to own. And an ever increasing property tax burden eventually forces homeowners, not, there's not somebody holding a gun to your head, but I mean, you're compelled at some point when this bill just keeps going up higher and higher, you're eventually compelled to just cut it loose, and sell your home, and maybe not realize you're leaving money on the table. You're not realizing the full future appreciation that you could have, and that's kind of like a nest egg especially for a lot of older people, because they're going to need that money if they end up going to an assisted living facility. But they're not going to have those additional funds. They're selling themselves short, having to sell and get out sooner than they would have wanted to, because of this egregious, just this tax burden. It's just it's onerous. It's just onerous, and it's just something that there's got to be a different way to cover these expenses. And I know that there's and I don't know I think something like 23 billion surplus that Texas has right now that should be used to significantly buy down these property tax rates across the state for homeowners. But this system is not something that's sustainable. It can't continue to go on like this, because I know that in my case, one of the big reasons, aside from the fact that I love the Southwest and I always wanted to live somewhere in either far west Texas or New Mexico or Arizona, But one of the big compelling factors in me selling my home in Dallas, where I lived for 20 years, was that property tax bill. I was paying 11,000 in property taxes, almost 11,000, 10,600, close enough. And there's just no relief in sight. And it doesn't matter what these legislators, the state legislators do every 2 years. All they end up doing is putting a band-aid on the issue. They don't find a way to cure the root problem. They're putting they're sticking their finger in a dike, and that only lasts so long, and then the bill inevitably still goes up, even with this increase in homestead exemption from 40 to 100,000 for the school ISD, just the school ISD portion, because it didn't apply to anything else. People have still seen an increase in their tax bill because values keep going up. So that's the other side of the equation that isn't addressed. You're not going to give people permanent relief. When values are going to just inevitably keep rising, home values are never going to go back down. They're just not. Not unless something really bad happens, like a natural disaster, like some of the things that are going on in California, but with the fires. But it's just not to just go on and rant uncontrollably here, but that's how I feel about the property tax system. So if you happen to see this, if you have any views on it, I'd be happy to read them. Please share your comments. Let me know what you feel about your property tax system. Share your experiences, how it's affected you, even if you're not in Texas, if you're in some other states. I know, some other states have some pretty bad situations. They don't even have some of the exemptions and the things that we have here in Texas to at least try to mitigate it to some extent. Please let me know in the comments how you feel, and I'd be glad to read those. Have a great day.